Friends, the first important part in designing learning outcome-based curriculum framework is writing the intended learning outcome ILO. The success of learning outcome-based curriculum design begins with writing the intended learning outcome effectively. Today, let us see the method of writing an intended learning outcome. First, we have to see the format of the learning outcome. The format must have two important parts. One is the action verb. The second part is the activity. This is the format. This is the way we have to write the intended learning outcome. Upon completion of a degree means BA or BSc or MA, like that. Or program means MSc Physics, BSc Botany, MA English, like that. Course means a subject or a paper in the particular program. So we have to write three different ILOs. The first one, if you write the ILO for a degree, it is called as a PO. If you write the ILO for a program, it is called program specific outcome. Similarly, if you write the ILO for a course, it will be called as CO, course outcome. So you have to choose either one of these. Upon completion of a course, the learners will be able to, here comes the verb. This is the place you have to choose an appropriate verb. Today, we are going to see how to choose an appropriate verb in this place. Verbs are of different types. Say, I can give you some examples. State Ohm's law. Draw the diagram of something. Explain the concepts of something. Solve the problem. Realize the meaning of a poem. Like that, you can have several verbs. The next important question is whether these verbs are appropriate or correct. Let us see. The first important thing is vague verbs. There are some verbs which are unclear or uncertain or sometimes indefinite or non-deterministic. Say, for example, if you write an ILO like this, understand the behavior of a warrior, or realize the philosophy of Socrates, or comprehend the meaning of the poem. Here, the different students will show or exhibit different responses. How can we assess the success at the end? Because the answer will be unclear, uncertain, the response will be indefinite. So we have to avoid vague verbs. Let us see some vague words. Realize the meaning of the poem. It's a vague meaning because we cannot find the response very accurately or definitely at the end. So we have to avoid these kind of vague verbs. Believe, comprehend, conceptualize, self-actualize. Similarly, some phrases are also available. Aware of, capable of, interest in, knowledge of. These are some of the examples which we must avoid because these are vague verbs. So, while writing a good intended learning outcome, we must avoid these types of vague verbs. Next, let us see the important characteristics of, let's see, I have already mentioned 5 verbs. Which one is vague? As I already mentioned, realize the vague. we have to remove this from our list. So before going deep into the writing of ILO, let us see some important characteristics of an ILO. The first and foremost character is specific. Specific means, suppose there is in a hospital, a child and an adult person affected suffering from fever meet a doctor. The doctor will never prescribe same medicine for a child and an adult because the age, the body condition will be different for different people. Similarly, in an education system, the outcome must be very appropriate to the learning level of the student. We must know the learning level, the existing knowledge, and the capacity of the learners, all we must take into consider. So, and also the content also must be appropriate for the particular group. The second important characteristic is achievable. If you propose some content which are above their heads or cannot manage, or they may not have the previous knowledge to cope with, we must avoid this. So whenever you write a good intended learning outcome, we must be very careful whether the learners will achieve it at the end. So we must be very careful or take into account the previous knowledge, available teaching learning resource, very important, the library facilities, the online facilities, everything, the teaching facilities, everything should be taken into account before you write the intended learning outcome. The next one is measurable at the end by an examiner. So everything should be tested at the end, whether the students achieved. Can the student demonstrate the acquired knowledge and skill by an activity at the end? So this is very important. So these are some of the important characteristics of intended learning outcome. Must be specific, achievable, and measurable. So whenever you write a verb, you must test whether it is specific for the group. This can be achieved by the group, and at the end you can measure it or assess it. So let us refine it. First step is the learning level. So in order to fix the learning level, you must know the taxonomy of learning first. So taxonomy of learning involves 3 domains. The first domain is the cognitive domain, that is the thinking domain, where you have 6 levels. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Similarly, then affective domain. This is the feeling domain, where you have 5 levels: receive, respond, value, organize, and characterize. The next domain is psychomotor domain, that is the doing domain, where you have 4 levels: observe, imitate, practice, and adapt. In these 3 domains, the first domain, cognitive domain, normally takes place in the classroom. So we must be very careful. We must write intended learning outcome for this particular domain, because the thinking process, this cognitive domain takes place in the classroom. So in the cognitive domain, we have 6 levels. Let us see what are the 6 levels, how we have to do this. So in order to understand these 6 levels, actually we have 6 levels which was published by Anderson in 2001. The first level, we have to take the learners to remember. This is the first stage of a learner, remember. So in order to remember, the student has to recall or tell or describe the concepts or facts learned. This is the first level of the cognitive domain. The second level is understand domain. These levels are hierarchical, one above the other. That's why I show the ladder type. The third one is apply level. First, the student will remember, then understand, then apply. In apply, you have to use these kind of verbs. Use, solve, show, use the facts, concepts for new situations. These are the suggested verbs. These three levels form the low order thinking. Let us come to the high order thinking. Higher order thinking starts at analyze. Analyze means distinguish, examine, compare. These are some of the verbs used in this particular level. Analyze the connections among facts or concepts. So the learner at the fourth level. The next level is evaluate level. These are some of the suggested verbs for this level. The student will be able to judge the ideas or concepts or facts. The last level is the highest level is the create level. Something the students will create a new things, construct new ideas, facts, concepts. So these are the 6 levels in the cognitive domain. Of the 6, the first 3 are called low order thinking level. The last 3 are called higher order thinking level. We must understand what is the difference between low order thinking and higher order thinking. Normally, the low order thinking takes place at the school level, whereas the higher order thinking takes place at the college level. That's why, see, the students, normally as science students, will learn Ohm's law in the 3rd standard itself. But even in the BSc physics, they will have the Ohm's law. The Ohm's law is same, but the thinking level is different. In the college, they will analyze, they will evaluate, they will create the circuit, they will evaluate the circuits using Ohm's law. So the thinking process is different. So we must be very careful in writing the intended learning outcome for college. The learning outcome for the school and the college is different. That's why I showed this type of ladder type levels. The student at the evaluate level must know how to analyze, how to apply, understand, remember. That's very important because it's a hierarchical level. So let us see how to write an ILO for a higher education institution. Normally, our institutions are called higher education institution because the higher order thinking process takes place in this institution. So let us reform our intended learning outcomes using these levels. These levels are originally proposed by Bloom and later updated by Anderson. So the intended learning outcome for a higher education institution must be like this. Upon completion of this course, this electricity source, the students will be able to define Ohm's law. The student will be able to find faults in an electrical circuit. The student will be find or rate an electrical device or judge an electrical device. The student will be able to design a new electrical circuit. This is the creative level, the top level. This is the judge or this is the find faults. This is the analyze level. So rate and circuit judging. This is the evaluate level. So you must have at least one outcome in the higher level. That is the create level. This is very, very important. And also at least one in the evaluate level. One in the analyze level, one in the evaluate level. You must have it. In every course, you must have at least one from, because in a college or higher education institution, our level must be in the higher order, higher level of thinking. That's why we must avoid the low level things. You can skip define Ohm's law. That is already done in the schools. So in order to write a higher education institution, our outcomes must be in the higher order level. You have to choose appropriate verbs in that level. So if you write ILOs following these conditions, following Bloom's taxonomy, Bloom's Anderson taxonomy, the ILOs will be very effective and our design will be very success. The learning outcome based curriculum design will be very successful because this is the first step to begin with the curriculum design. I request all the academics to follow the guidelines while writing the intended learning outcome while designing a curriculum. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye till we meet again.